Oh, no, I didn't.
But before we get started, I'd just like to, I have the opportunity to have the gavel night. This will be kind of fun, so just be patient with me for a little bit. And the reason why I happen to have the gavel night is because we have a new member of we have a new Cookeville citizen today. Her name is let me make sure. Okay, that's right. Channing Riley, Swallows, 8 pounds 1 ounces. She's 21 inches long. She was born yesterday afternoon sometime, and the Swallows are ecstatic. She has brown hair, and she's got dimples way up here. Not dimples right here. Got dimples way up here. They don't know where she got the brown hair, and they don't know where she got the dimples. So, it goes to show she's already her own person. So Matt couldn't be here for that reason. I told him I thought it was kind of lame, but he's still not here. So, all right. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Would the clerk call the roll, please?
Councilman Anderson,
Present.
Councilman Woodford,
Present.
Mayor Swallows, Vice Mayor Epps.
Here.
Councilman Albright,
Present.
4 present, 1 absent.
All right, the next item, if we would please stand for our moment of silent prayer. Amen. Now the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 1 on our agenda is to consider approval of the agenda as presented. Do I hear a motion of approval?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Are there any questions or discussion? All those in favor, vote yes or no.
4 yes. Motion carries.
Thank you. Okay, the next business up is old business. This would be item 2. We're to consider the approval of minutes of the council meeting that we held on December 2nd. If I can have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions, comments, or discussion? All those in favor signify by voting yes or no.
4 yes votes, motion carries.
Again, under old business is item 3, and that's to consider the second and final reading of ordinance 010113, which is closure and abandonment of a portion of an undeveloped alley right-of-way located north of Craighead Street, and it's contiguous with parcels 14 and 15 on the tax map 53B, Group G. It will be declared as surplus, and James Mills is sponsoring this.
Mr. Vice Mayor, council members, the alley proposed for closure depicted upon the screen. It has a width of approximately 10 feet, and from north from Craighead, it's 360 feet in length. Here's an aerial view of the property. As you stated, there are 2 parcels that surround this. They're both owned by the petitioner, Burton Nelson. The Planning Commission has recommended for approval of the closure and abandonment and declaration of surplus property with sale to the adjoining property owner in compliance with the municipal code. The Planning Department concurs with this recommendation.
All right. Do I have a motion
I
So moved.
and a second?
Second.
Are there any questions or comments, discussion? Mr. Mills, I do have a question, and I asked this in the work session. I apologize for this. I wasn't here at the first reading, but One of the things that going through the 2030 plan and kind of looking at zoning and lot sizes, one of the concerns I remember reading was that our lot sizes, we need higher density lots. We need them smaller. By closing this alley, is the city staying consistent with that desire? Because it seems to me that if we close a proposed road, I know it's not even there. I went by and looked at it. It's just trees. But by closing it, does that prevent this area from ever being developed in a higher density way?
No, let me go back to the one slide, maybe. Right now, the way this is configured, there's an L-shaped piece that goes like this. This is all one parcel that's separated by this alley, but by tax purposes, it's one piece, and this is a separate piece. The desire from the petitioner, if he acquires this alley, is to split this property this way. So you'd have two tracks. So in essence, you've made one track smaller and one larger. Now, even with this happening, this still leaves the back sides that could eventually be subdivided, but right now all that's impossible because it doesn't have any street frontage.
Right.
So this alley would have no effect on increasing the density because of the other restraints on the properties, which includes the lack of access to public streets and utilities on the back portion of this property.
Okay, good. I just was concerned that we're consistent in our desires and needs for higher
If you've
density.
I'm sure some of y'all visited this, but he has purchased both of these properties. I believe he's going to make his home here, and he's spent quite a bit of money rehabbing that structure, and he's also planning on rehabbing. So this will help encourage the redevelopment or reuse of these properties.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mills. Does any other councilman have any questions? Okay, if there are no more questions, I'll ask for a vote. All those in favor signify by voting. Yes or no?
4 yes votes, motion carries.
All right, again, under old business, we are on item 4. Let's consider, this is the second reading, the final reading of ordinance 0101114, and that's adopting the Cookeville 2030 plan.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. This is, again, like you said, the second and final reading. The plan's been prepared by the Planning Commission. It's been certified to the council for your consideration, and they've recommended for approval, and the Planning Department concurs. I've deleted most of the slides, but this is basically the functions and the purpose of the plan. One of the main components of the plan is the future land use concept map. But again, we recommend for approval.
All right, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
And a second. I have a motion and a second. Are there any questions or discussion?
No. Not for me.
If there are no further questions, we'll go ahead and vote. Vote by signifying yes or no.
4 yes votes, motion carries.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mills. All right. We have two items on the consent agenda, item 5 and 6. Item 5 is awarding the bid for meal service at the Father Dollar Date Night, and that's by Leisure Services Department. And item 6 is consider awarding a bid for transformers by Electric Department. Does any council members would like to ferret one of these out for discussion?
Not me.
If not, then I'd like a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second.
Do you have any questions, discussion?
No.
All those in favor vote by signifying yes or no.
4 yes votes, motion carries.
All right. Now we're on to new business. Item 5 is, item 7 is consider authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement with Cookeville Regional Medical Center, and this is relative to that 7th Street widening project, and this is being sponsored by the Cookeville Regional Medical Center.
Actually, it's been sponsored by me.
Okay, sponsored by
Yeah.
City of Cookeville.
Yeah. And this is an agreement between the hospital board and the city of Cookeville, where the hospital board has agreed to pay for the improvements to 7th Street for an amount not to exceed $650,000. And the consideration for that agreement is that the city will not increase their in lieu payment for 5 years. It's actually a pretty good deal for the hospital.
And a great deal for the city.
Yeah. But I would recommend approval.
So moved.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, discussion. Any questions from council members?
Be glad to have 7th Street straightened out.
Yes.
I do have a question, just curiosity, Bernie. Of course, 7th Street, that's quite a street. That's connects. That's a hospital connection, and it's a major thoroughfare for tech. I'm just curious. What's the plans for making sure that it's going to work for our hospital, but also work for our Tennessee Tech folks too?
The design, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Shipley, it would be designed as a 3-lane street with a center turn lane, which will help traffic into and out of the medical center,
Right.
and will come right in with the improvements that have already been made on the other end of 7th Street. So this will complete the entire 7th Street project from Mailer on over to Willow Avenue and make it contiguous.
And has Tech? I guess is Tech? Are they okay with this? Do we even need to have any?
We've had several meetings with
Yes.
them.
Okay. All right. Good.
They're
I was just-
delighted.
I was just curious. Okay, good. And 5 years is when? 5 years ends when, Mr. Shipley?
We've got it in the agreement, don't we, Bernie?
I believe we do.
I don't see an ending day.
I mean, is that 5 years from this year, 2000?
That would be my understanding, yes.
2000.
That's 5
2015?
years from this year.
2015.
Because it was my understanding that this agreement was put together. Was it put together? I thought it was last year.
It was only approved this year.
It was this year,
Okay.
this summer.
I could have sworn I put that in
Well-
there, but anyway, it would be 5 years from this fiscal year.
Okay.
Counting this fiscal year.
Okay. I don't have any further questions. Any,
When's the street to be
Councilman
done?
Woodford?
When is the street to be completed, Mr. Shipley?
We hope to start in the spring and hope to have it finished before Tennessee Tech gets back in the fall.
Oh, that'd be great.
And this street will still be aesthetically as the hospital has been done?
Cityscape, yes.
Yeah, cityscape. Okay.
Yeah, it's going to look just like the portion of 7th Street that we completed a couple of years ago in front of the nursing school.
Right. Good.
Except it
You
won't
gotta
have
put
the little
roundabout.
roundabout.
2 or 3, I thought.
Well, let me do ask a question. So, I think we ought to make it clear about this 5-year time. So that's going to be the fiscal year 2011, 12, 13, 14, and 15, that the in lieu payment stays at the current level?
Could add an item 4.
we
Or could
just
you put it up at the top?
Just interline it after the 5 years and put
Fiscal,
for which fiscal years they are.
Well, I would prefer if it be like 2014 more than 2015.
Okay.
If that's a 5-year term, but
but the 5-year term would be 2015 because,
I mean,
This is
I just
11. This is fiscal year 11.
Well, that's the question. Is it 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15, or?
We're now in the middle of fiscal year 2011.
yeah.
Okay. So it'd be,
So it would have to be fiscal year 2015.
okay. So 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15.
do we need
Do we need to amend
we need to have
this?
do we need to have an amendment on that to clarify that,
I think so.
Mr. Rader?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Would a councilperson please provide an
Well,
amendment for
now,
that?
I okayed the motion, so does somebody else have to amend it, or I can amend it?
You
I
made
can
the
amend-
motion?
I made the motion.
Yeah, you can amend your own motion.
Okay, I'm going to amend my motion to add that where it says annual in lieu payment to the city for 5 years, put in there that it would be, it goes until 2015, and at the end of fiscal year 2015, then we renegotiate. But don't put that renegotiate in the motion.
I think just through 2015 is adequate.
Okay,
Through fiscal year 2015.
year.
fiscal year 2015.
Okay. Is everybody clear on the amendment?
Yes.
Okay.
I need a motion. I need a second now.
Okay, there was my amendment. Now I need a second.
I need a second.
Second.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second on the amendment. Is everybody prepared to vote for the amendment That's so stated? Okay. All those in favor or not in favor, vote by signifying yes or no.
4 yes votes, motion carries.
Okay, so this amendment passes. Now, you guys, is everybody ready to vote on the motion as amended?
As amended.
The motion as amended, okay. Any questions or discussion, any more discussion on that? Okay, all those in favor, vote yes or no.
4 yes votes, motion carries.
Okay, that leads us to item 8. Item 8 is considering approval of the issuance of the $30 million Build America bonds. And this is for renovation or expansion renovation and or expansion. This is again sponsored by Cookeville Region.
Thank you, Vice Mayor, members of the council. On behalf of the Board of Trustees of Cookeville Regional Medical Center, request the council to approve this evening the issuance of $30 million in Build America bonds for required renovation and expansion of the medical center.
All right, do I have a motion?
I move for approval. Second.
Any discussion?
Mr. Manley, most of this is going to be for expansion of operating rooms, is that correct?
That is correct.
What is I think the last time the hospital had some renovations on the OR was 20-plus years ago?
We had some minor renovations in the last 10 years, but the last major renovation was well over 10 years ago, yes.
Well over 10 years.
Well over 10 years ago.
Lifetime, as far as the square footage, that has been changing.
That's changing constantly, and that's part of our issue that we have right now, and the Vice Mayor is very aware of that. We have 10 ORs, and 5 of the 10 ORs are less than or approximately 400 square feet. The current code requires ORs to be 600 square feet minimum. Okay. And the ORs that we will be constructing will be 650 square feet in space, and that is due to the types of equipment and the multiple pieces of equipment that are required for surgery in this day and time.
Okay. Good.
Mr. Mattingly, just as a question, when you have ORs that aren't in compliance, is there a grandfather law? Or that,
there is a
okay,
grandfather
right.
clause, yes, and they grandfather those in, and we use those rooms, and we'll continue to use those rooms for small, minor
Right.
cases, yes.
Right.
And I have a question, Mr. Mattingly. We're issues for $30 million, but the project is approximately $25 million. What is that? Is that business as usual, or why the discrepancy? What's the rest, the $5 million for?
If you notice the following two items, $20 million is for the OR expansion.
Right.
And then $4.9 million is for the construction of an electrophysiology lab.
Right.
We have a new electrophysiologist in town, Dr. Mark Wathen. This is a new service that we can offer to our region and our community, very much needed service for our region and community since we are a retirement area. And those are the primary projects the funds will be used for.
Well, but it's the funds, but it's 30. We're bonding for $30 million, but the total project's 24.9.
And we have other things that will be coming down the road, and we will be using those funds for. So not to worry that there are other projects in the wings.
I guess I'm just kind of wondering what those projects were. If you.
We have several, and the list goes on and on. One is our emergency room. Believe it or not, our emergency room is one of the top 25 busiest emergency rooms in the state of Tennessee. And while it's only 11 years old, it's already outlived its capacity. And so down the road, we will be needing to expand our OR as one project. Our imaging department is another project that we'll be looking to expand. So there are more needs than there are funds available to do everything that we need to do.
So are the operating rooms at the hospital currently, you're at capacity? And
we are at
more?
capacity, yes. Of the 10 ORs, 1 and 2 are dedicated to our open heart program, which is typical of any hospital with an open heart program. 1 is dedicated to urological procedures only, so that leaves you with 7 ORs that we use for all types of multiple different surgeries. And of those 7 rooms, they're at greater than 70% capacity right now, and you don't want to go that high.
Right.
We need the relief now. Plus, in addition to the 6 ORs that we'll be building, we will also be expanding our recovery room and also support areas for staff, locker rooms, et cetera, for the staff, because the staff is growing as well.
Okay.
When do you anticipate these to be finished?
When construction begins, it's anticipated this will be an 18-month project for the OR. The electrophysiology lab is less than that. That's about a 12-month project.
What are you looking at with the emergency room?
Go west, young man, go west. We need more space.
All right. Council members, any further questions? Okay, you guys ready to vote?
Right.
Vote by signifying yes or no.
4 yes votes, motion carries.
Okay, this leads us to items 9 and then followed by 10. Item 9 is the approval, considering approval of the expenditure is not to exceed $20 million for this OR expansion. And do I hear a motion to approve?
I so move.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion on this item?
No.
Hearing no discussion, I'll go ahead and call for a vote. Vote yes or no.
4 yes votes, motion carries.
Item 10 is consider approval of an expenditure of not to exceed 4.9 for the electrophysiology EP lab. And do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Do we have any questions or discussion?
No.
I'm just happy to see this coming because I know that there's a lot of people that go to Nashville now.
Yes.
Or, well, before Dr. Waltham came, and this has been needed for a long time.
It's a great service. We've desired to provide this for many years, and now we finally have the opportunity to do it, and we're very proud to do that.
When will the completion date be for that? Will that be in with the 18 months, or will that be?
About 12 months on that
Okay.
project, so that will be finished prior to the OR expansion.
Mr. Manley, I have a question. I don't know if I'm privy to the answer because this may be confidential. But of course, this is a large investment for a very needed service, as Councilman Albright stated. The Dr. Waltham, who's doing a fine job, is his contract for. Does he have a contract with?
He has a contract with Tennessee Heart. He is a member of the Tennessee Heart Group. Yes.
Okay. I guess the reason I'm asking is my concern is he's doing a great job. He's a wonderful gentleman. But what if he decides to go? We've got a large investment, and I guess that's just kind of part of doing business. Is that right? Or
Well, believe it or not, he's already about 95% at capacity.
Yeah.
So we're going to be in the position in the very near future to recruit a second electrophysiologist. So he's got plenty of work. He's happy as a lark and loves Cookeville. So
okay. All right. Thank you. Okay. If any other questions?
No.
No further questions. I'll ask for a vote. Vote yes or no.
4 yes votes, motion carries.
thank you.
And thank you, Bertie. Okay, this leads us now to we're on item 11. This is to consider the approval of the City of Cookeville's compliance policies and procedures, and this is relative to the IRS code requirements for tax exempt and other bonds. Mr. Davidson.
Mayor and council members, many of these items, or most of these items, all the items that are in this policy, we currently do. The purpose of it is, though, to ensure that the city is in compliance with Internal Revenue Code related to tax-exempt bonds, as well as the Build America bonds that the city just issued a week ago that actually closed yesterday. That deal did close yesterday, and we received the $7.2 million. It assigns a responsibility to the Finance Department, the Finance Director, to monitor all the tax requirements and the code to make sure we stay in compliance with Internal Revenue Code. Requires that we maintain records of how we use the bond proceeds, how we've invested those bond proceeds, and it requires that we adhere to all the IRS restrictions related to private business use and how you use those bonds to fund anything in a private business setting. It also requires that we continue to receive education and training to keep us up to date on all the IRS rules related to tax-exempt financing. Our bond counsel recommended we put all this in writing, and so I'd recommend your approval.
Okay, do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Okay, any other questions from the councilman? Questions, comments, discussion? Okay, having none, hearing no questions, I'll ask for a vote. Vote yes or no.
4 yes votes, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Davison. And item 12 is we're going to consider approving funding of drug court operations, and this is through UCHRA. Mr. Shipley's sponsoring this.
Mr. Vice Mayor and Council, our budget for this year has an appropriation of $7,500 to go to the Putnam County Drug Court. We've been advised that the Upper Cumberland Human Resource Agency has taken over the administration of that drug court, and they have requested the $7,500, and we just need council approval to change that appropriation to UCHRA for the drug court.
Okay, do I have an approval?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, and any discussion? If there's no discussion, I'll go ahead and ask for a vote. Vote yes or no.
4 yes votes, motion carries.
Item 13, consider the acceptance of the certified returns of the local option election, in parentheses, alcoholic beverages, that was held on November 2nd, 2010.
Mayor and Council, this is for the council to formally accept the certified returns of that election, which was to permit package stores in Cookeville 3,767 votes and not to permit 2,887. I would recommend your approval.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Is there any discussion or questions?
No, it's pretty clear cut.
Hearing none, I'll ask for a vote. Vote yes or no.
4 yes votes, motion carries.
All right, item 14 is consider authorizing approval of the engineering contract for sanitation sewer line evaluation study. This is being sponsored by the Water Control Department, Water Quality Control Department. Mr. Kelly.
Vice Mayor and Council, we've negotiated a engineering contract with Gresham Smith and Partners to evaluate some drainage basins that we've got some issues with. We're getting some excessive water going into those basins when it rains, and we need to do an evaluation on those areas. Project will consist of smoke testing and a physical survey. Field engineers will be on hand when they do these inspections. They'll evaluate the results, deliver us a report, and then we'll be able to take some actions trying to correct some of the problems we find. We've negotiated a contract amount of $39,395.10. We'd recommend the council authorize the city manager enter into that contract. And what we're trying to do, here's a graph of a pump station. You can see what happens when it rains. And so we're trying to get where we can cut the top off that graph. It's just we're getting some excessive rain when it rains or getting into the system.
Okay.
We've got to try to keep that out. We'd recommend approval.
Okay. And so I'll need a motion for approval, please.
So moved.
And
Second.
I also have, so I have a motion and a second. Questions for Mr. Kelly or any discussion?
The $39,000, where's that coming from? Is that out of your
Oh,
department?
it's budgeted.
Budgeted.
Yeah, it's going to evaluate about 69,000 feet of line,
Okay.
which is roughly 13,000 miles, I think, of the system.
Okay.
But it's budgeted.
I have a question. Ronnie, Mr. Kelly, can you go back to the previous picture?
Sure.
With those three areas, with these recent, I've been just really keen with those 200-year floods that we had in this past year. I'm just really keen on that. Are these areas that you're assessing, are these typically problem areas when we get large rainfalls as far as flooding is concerned? And will this assessment help us? Will this assessment help us better evaluate how to remove water in such a way that can maybe prevent that?
No, it'll probably make it worse because we're trying to keep it out of our sanitary sewer system and get it back up on
really?
the ground into the creek where it belongs. But
Well, I mean, I know one of the things I noticed right off the sorry, maybe I shouldn't ask the question. Because again, well, okay. That one, especially right there north of Tech, is the one that I'm very concerned about.
These are just basins that all the sewer in those areas, gravity flows down into a pump station. So we're trying to look in that basin. We're getting too much rain, broken pipes. People have to clean out plugs off that are in ditch lines. When it rains, those ditches fill up with water, and a 6-inch pipe fills our 8-inch pipe up.
Well, again, I guess maybe my question isn't so appropriate. If we can find out some of the area why you're getting delivered so much water, maybe some of our natural egresses of water are being hampered. Will that help? Will that help answer some of those questions?
Well, it causes problems in what I think what you're discussing is like a sinkhole gets filled up.
Right.
That water table fills up, the bowl fills up, and then it can spill into some of our problems. But these areas are just naturally rain running off down a ditch line, or people's roof drains tied into their sanitary sewer they're not supposed to be, and it's trying to find those type of things is what we're looking for.
Okay. Any other questions? Hearing none, I'll ask for a vote. Vote yes or no.
4 yes votes, motion carries.
Item 15, consider appointments to the Sewer Regulations Appeal Board.
Vice Mayor and Council, we have 3 vacancies on our Sewer Regulations and Appeals Board. The terms of Dennis George, Bob Vick, and John Weekly have expired. Dennis George and Bob Vick, they cannot serve another term. And without a 1-year break, John Weekly is eligible to serve another term. The board was established by ordinance in 1988. The board is made up of 5 members appointed to 3-year terms who shall serve not more than 2 full 3-year terms without a 1-year break. The board's set up to hear appeals of any decisions we make in our department. Since the board's been established, they've failed to meet, they've yet to meet. So there hasn't been a need for the board to convene. We have talked to a couple of people here in town. Phil Staten with Clinton Engineering, Gina Whitehead with Metcom to be appointed, and we'd recommend appointing those 2 individuals to the 2 filled vacancies, and John Weekly to be reappointed to the additional, he's eligible for 1 more term, so we'd recommend his appointment. He's with Genco. The other 2 members make up the board, Dan Ike with the Dixie Imperial Plating, and Dr. Martha Wells with Tennessee Tech.
All right. Do I hear a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
I hear a motion and a second. Are there any questions?
I do have a question. I understand that this board had to be appointed, but what would cause it to need to convene?
There's, in the sewer use ordinance, we regulate a lot of industry. There's permitting issues. There's fees associated with that. There's all kinds of things in the ordinance. And it's a mechanism to give them a board to go to if they so disagree with some of that. Now, some of it's by ordinance, so they would have to, I guess if the board decided there was an issue with it, it may have to come back to a council for their consideration to change the ordinance. But there's some decisions we can make as a department that's sort of by policy, internal policy, that the board could hear and look at and evaluate and think that we're being unfair to the industry or whatever. And that's what it was set up for.
Just wondering.
Any other questions? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. Vote yes or no.
4 yes
Thank
votes,
you.
motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. All right, item 16 is consider the 2011 health insurance contracts. This Mr. Davidson's presenting this.
Vice Mayor and Council, we have several slides, and I'd like to go through those, and at some point I'll be quiet and ask Rick Woods to address some of the issues and present some items to you as well, and then maybe at the end we can consider these items after we go through these slides. But in 2009, early 2009, we started to see our health claims cost just skyrocket, and we're self-insured. And so back in 2000, at the end of 2009, starting our 2010 plan year, we made a plan design change in that we changed networks. That from the Blue Cross provider network, we went from a network P to network S, hoping to slow down those claims costs, and I think it has helped. Blue Cross says it has, but our claims are still continuing to climb. So as part of that overall process, we wanted to assemble, and we put together an employee health and wellness committee. It's represented by an individual from every department within the city. And prior to that, we put together an employee survey, and we gathered information from the employees about their use of the health system, their interest in other health plan options. We had 312 of the employees that responded to this survey, and the survey results, basically, the employees were interested in trying to create a health clinic for the employees that they could use along with their family members as well. And the employees were also interested in trying to establish like a fitness type program to try to get exercise, get active, and hopefully in the long run that will help slow down the claims cost as well. The committee was established to review the health care coverage that we currently have, consider the wellness benefits that we have. We established that in March 2010. They looked at potential insurance plan modifications. We looked at that. Had Blue Cross up here studying different things that we could possibly do to help with their health plan costs. They also considered the expansion of our wellness program that we have, and some of the reasons for the change was overall just to try to get our employees healthier and more active, and in addition to try to keep our employee in the city's insurance cost as low as possible, and again, possibly trying to offer incentives to the employees to get more active. And that wellness committee has some recommendations, and it's kind of three-part recommendation: health insurance, a health clinic, and also a fitness type program for our employees. And just to give you some history on our health insurance plan itself, we've been self-funded for the last 13 years. We've got over 1,000 lives covered on our health plan. We use Blue Cross Blue Shield Network S. The average age of the employees and the retirees that are covered, it's up to 50 now. The average age of all 1,000 members is 38.3 years. Again, you can kind of see our health claims off of this graph here. In 2003 or 4, health claims are $1.6 million. You can see them. They've kind of gradually increased. But in fiscal year 2009, we saw a $500,000 increase. I mean, just like that. 2010, fiscal year 2010, we've got $3,254,000 in claims. Right now, I've got estimated fiscal year 2011 to end again right at that $3 million range. Slightly lower than fiscal year 2010, but not a drastic increase. So part of the wellness, the recommendations out of the Health and Fitness Committee is we looked at various options, high deductible health plans or increasing premiums to help offset this, increasing deductibles, what can we do? And bottom line, after we went through all the options, all the funding estimates that Blue Cross provided to us, our own estimates that we were trying to calculate as well, the recommendation from the committee is that we increase the deductible $1,000 from $500, and that's per employee or per covered life up to that maximum for the family deductible. In addition, we also have, as part of the recommendation, continue to use Blue Cross Blue Shield to administer the plan, participate in their network. Blue Cross actually lowered their fee this year to administer the plan. It's a 11.73% decrease from what they charged us in 2010. Another piece of this is where we purchase stop-loss insurance to cover any large catastrophic claims that hit $200,000. This year, I'd recommend that we would use a company, Highmark. It's a company that Blue Cross partners with. Basically, they're the ones that got this quote for us. We've used Sun Life for several years for that, but Sun Life's quote to cover us this year was a 30-some-odd% increase, just based on the claims history that we've got right now. They wanted their proposal was a 32% increase. But Highmark, their quote would be roughly $212,000 to cover the catastrophic claims for the city of Cookeville. Also, another part of the overall health insurance plan, as part of that, is just the group term life insurance that all our employees receive, coverage that's paid for by the health plan. Again, that would be handled by Sun Life as well. So that's one piece of the overall health plan that the Health and Wellness Committee looked at. The second aspect of this is the employee health clinic that we've discussed. The purpose of the clinic, we think, is to keep all the employees healthy, well, productive, and at work. And by doing that, we're looking at partnering with CRMC for this health clinic. And this is one of the, out of that survey, the committee, or the employees seem very interested in this. And tonight we'd ask you to, and which is like item 17, I believe, on the agenda, would be to consider and approve that contract between CRMC, which would allow the employees to utilize their clinic. It's employees only at this point, not the family members. We hope to get it up and running, get any issues, kinks worked out, and get it flowing and everything smooth, and then hopefully open it up to where spouses can participate in that as well. All employees of the City of Cookeville would be allowed to utilize that clinic, and spouses, children, hopefully at a later date. The clinic cost is $50, and that includes certain lab tests and injections that clinic can perform right there. That's included in that $50 fee. The payments for the clinic visits will not apply toward the deductible for those employees that utilize this. They're not mandated to go to this clinic. They can still go to their physician if they want to. It's just another option for our employees. Now, the employees that participate in the city's health plan, they would pay $20 of that $50, and the health plan would pick up the other $30. Now, if it's an employee that does not participate in our health plan, they can still attend the clinic if they want to, but they would be responsible for that entire $50 charge. The city will be billed by the hospital for the entire $50. We're going to handle the employee share of this out of payroll deduction, and we'll make the payment on behalf of the employees and the city's co-payment, I guess, or the $30 visit that the city would pay. We'll handle that, make that $50 payment to the hospital on behalf of the employees, but we'll deduct their $20 out of their paycheck as they sign a payroll deduction form when they receive services at the clinic as well. But that's the second piece of the overall recommendations that came out of the Health and Fitness Committee. The third piece is a fitness program that I'm going to let Rick talk more about that. He's much more familiar with it than I am, and I'll be quiet.
Thanks, Mike.
Rick, can you hold on just for a second?
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Woods. Is the council? Are you guys okay? This is a lot. We've got a lot of. There's a lot of information that we have just have just gathered. And are you ready to move forward? We're going to consider this is item 18 now that's being discussed. You guys okay with that, or do you want to stop and maybe go back and discuss, ask any questions on either item 16 or 17 before we move on to some questions or the presentation of 18? Is everybody okay?
I'm okay. I think Mike's done a tremendous job in the committee and the due diligence and involving the city employees and looking out for the city taxpayers.
Okay.
You know, I think it's well conceived.
Okay. I just was concerned with it's just a lot of information that Mike presented to us. I just want to make sure everybody's okay with that. If everybody's okay, then Rick, you want to go ahead and present some discussion or some items for item 18?
Be happy to. Thank you.
Thank you.
As Mike said, this is the third component of this three-phase plan that we have. And the fitness recommendations that came from the committee, first of all, we did look at the survey. We asked a lot of questions in the survey about employees' activity levels and whether they would participate in a fitness program. 62% of the employees surveyed, or the employees who responded, said that they would definitely participate in an incentive-based fitness exercise program, and another 30% said that they might participate in an incentive-based fitness program. So we were very encouraged by that, and we looked at what other cities were offering, other cities who have fitness plans and wellness plans for their employees, and looked at also some private businesses of what they had as well. And we came up with some recommendations that we are recommending to you today. First of all, our purpose is to encourage the employees to be healthy and through this incentive-based program and to get fit and to be active. The participation by employees is totally voluntary. We will ask employees if they want to participate. If they do, they may. If they don't want to participate, they're not forced to. They're no arm twisting, that sort of thing. They're encouraged to, but they don't have to. We're offering 2 exercise incentive plans. When we did the survey, we had about half of the respondents who surveyed said that they would like to have they would like to participate, but they didn't want their fitness levels to be tested. And another half said they would like to participate and they did want their fitness levels to be tested. So we came up with two different plans, one that will test fitness levels and reward fitness levels, and one that will not test fitness levels, will simply reward activity. So we have two plans. One is Plan A. There's no fitness level testing done. There's no assessment of those levels required. What is required of that is that you exercise a minimum of 72 times per 6-month period for a minimum of 30 minutes at a time. You log that exercise activity. You turn that in to this subcommittee that will review that information. You attend one lunch and learn educational type session that will address health issues, wellness issues, fitness issues, all those kinds of things. We'll do one of those a month. And you attend at least one of those during that 6-month period. You log your exercise time in, and if you do it in that 6-month period, you will get a monetary award of $25 at the end of that 6 months. Of course, at the end of the next 6 months, you would get another $25 if you continue to go along that path. The second plan, Plan B, we do test physical fitness levels. Everything that we require in Plan A, logging your exercise, attending the lunch and learn session, that is still part of Plan B as well. You still have to exercise 72 times during that 6-month period for a minimum of 30 minutes. The only difference is, in this one, we will measure the 5 fitness components, basic fitness components, which would be flexibility, muscular endurance, cardiovascular endurance, muscular strength, and body composition. And they're standard, easy tests that we can measure those. And if that participant in that Plan B falls into the normal range of 3 of the 5 standards, they would qualify. And they've exercised and logged their exercise during that time period. They would qualify for a monetary award of $75 after that 6-month period. And of course, again, at the end of the next 6 months. So it's potential to be rewarded $150 in a year's time. In addition to that, all of the city's fitness classes will be free to city employees, and we will offer payroll deduction for local fitness centers and club membership. So if an employee, whether they're participating in Plan A or Plan B or no plan at all, if they would like to join the YMCA or become a member of one of the fitness centers here in town, and that fitness center is willing to work with us to have that done as a payroll deduction, we'll be happy to offer that to the employees, and we have been in contact with those clubs and those fitness centers. Other things that we'd like to do would be offer T-shirts for those who successfully complete what they've committed to doing. We'll have newsletters to help encourage folks with information, health information. We'd like to schedule special events, special activities, group walks, that sort of thing. Maybe do, as was noticed in this evening's Herald Citizen, the information about the hospital's Biggest Loser program that's been very successful. We could do things like that as part of this plan as well. So that's basically a synopsis of a summary of what the fitness component of this plan is. And I think the committee members are excited about it and eager to get it going. I'd like to, if I could, jump ahead just to say, and Councilman Woodford alluded to the committee members and the work that they've done. And we would like to thank all those committee members for the hard work and effort they put forth during this past 8 months or so in this process. And we have those members listed here: Barry Turner, Bruce Lamb, Kara Sheets, Jane Barnes, Jeff Littrell, Jennifer Kelsey, Lydia Daniels, Nancy Byers, Regina Walker, Rob Correll, Shane Waters, Tina Sullivan. We're all members of that committee and have worked very hard and done a very good job getting us to the point that we are today to make these recommendations to you. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have about the fitness aspect, and Mike can handle the rest of it.
Okay, let's let's take this. Lot of stuff. So let's take this. Let's start with item 16 first, okay? And I guess if anybody has any objections, let me know if in the process of this. But what I'll go ahead and do is we'll consider item 16. I'll ask for a motion, amendment, etc., and then we'll go through questions or discussion, and particularly point it to that portion of this whole presentation, if that's okay with the councilman. Okay. So item 16 is considering the 2011 health insurance contracts, and Mr. Davidson did a great presentation with that. Do I hear a motion to approve that contract?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Now, are there any questions in particular to this health insurance contract?
Well, I want to go back to what Mr. Wood said and what Mr. Woodford said about the committee. I think this has been a great process to bring the employees in to help them understand what all of this is about, and for them to make decisions based on what they've learned, and then to go back to the rest of the employees and share that information. I feel like, when you have employees who are invested in decisions, then those decisions aren't affecting them. They are actually working through them. And I just really want to go back to applauding the committee about all of their hard work.
Good point.
I have a question. Will you put together a pamphlet for all the employees so they can look and see exactly what coverages they have and what their options are on these different programs?
Well, as far as the health plan, as far as the health plan, nothing basically is changing other than the deductible increase. But we're putting together information to share with them everything what's happening with the health plan as well as the employee clinic. We are putting all that information together for them, yes.
There will be, regarding the fitness program, there will be a brochure that will be put together and distributed, and we have already begun doing educational sessions with departments that we will continue over the next month or so.
Mr. Davis, could you put that original slide up there for item 16? Actually, if you go, that one right there. Apparently, these are the recommendations for item 16.
Yes.
So, I just have a parliamentary question. I guess since this is all in just one contract, this doesn't require us to piecemeal any of these out, do we?
No.
We can't line item this at all. It's all yay or nay.
Well, I suppose you could line item it, but then he would have to go renegotiate the whole deal.
And it's got to be done.
Okay. Because there are a lot of things in here. I just want to make sure that was clear.
I think it's a package proposal.
Okay. One of the questions I presented in the work session, of course, is the deductibles going up for our employees, 100%. We're asking them to pay instead of $500, we're asking them to pay $1,000. Again, I appreciate the committee's work on educating our employees about that. One of the things I express, and I also understand that this committee is an ongoing process. Is that correct?
It is. This committee will be together throughout 2011 as well, keeping them informed of everything going on with all three aspects of our health plan, the insurance, the clinic, as well as the fitness program.
Because one of the things I expressed in the work session, I'd really like to see, we're asking the employees to shoulder another $500 deductible per covered life. I would really like to see the committee discuss FSAs and provide some savings for them as far as their known costs that they're going to go through. So I would really appreciate if the committee can do that. I don't necessarily feel like I need to do that with a motion or anything, but I would encourage the committee to maybe approach that, because I think it could save we're asking them to increase their costs, but I think this is a way they could save 15 to 25% of some of their monies.
On some of their out-of-pocket. And I have, since we discussed this Tuesday evening, I made contact with Blue Cross Blue Shield about that, so they're getting that information for me.
Right.
And then we'll discuss it with the Health and Wellness Committee as well, and then see what we can do.
Great.
Well, one of the things about raising the deductible, even though that's being raised by $500, to me, that's preferable than to raising premiums, because everybody then bears that burden of the premiums, but not everybody ever meets their $500 deductible. I mean, lots of us do. I certainly have now that I've gotten a little bit older, but, and, you know, and also because I have a child with a chronic illness. But there were years and years and years when my family didn't meet our deductible, you know, so I think that's, and there again, with the employees helping make that decision, it's easier to deal with.
Any other questions or discussion for Mr. Davidson? Okay, hearing none, I'll ask for a vote. Please signify by voting yes or no.
4 yes votes, motion carries.
Okay, that passes item 16. Okay, we're going to move on to 17, which is that we're going to consider the contract with CRMC to utilize their employee health clinic.
I move for approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Questions, comments?
I do have a question, and I noticed that Mr. Mattingly left. Does anybody know if the clinic is open on weekends?
It's not, currently it's not open on weekends. The hours are 7 to 4 right now. They hope, from what they've expressed to us, that they may be able to offer extended hours once we see what utilization, how much demand there is from our employees, and if they see that demand, they hope to be able to extend their hours as well, and possibly even get into some weekend hours, they said.
Do you know if the people, it'll be staffed by a nurse practitioner or
It's
a
staffed.
doctor?
It's staffed by a nurse practitioner, and then all the case notes and everything are reviewed by a physician from the hospital and oversees all that.
One of the things items I expressed a concern for, and I looked into, was the effects this would have on some of our family physicians that we have here in town. You can consider those gentlemen and ladies as small business owners, and in essence, what we're doing is, I guess, it can be construed that we're taking potential business away from them. So I spent some time talking to these small businessmen and women about the repercussions of this. Now, I've talked about four folks, and I don't think any of them were really happy. This seems to be a trend that's been going on, and you had mentioned before that some of our private businesses here in our community have already begun doing this. I appreciate the council's or the committee's statement that this is not. I mean, this is certainly not mandatory, and they can still continue to see their own family physician. Given that this is going to have probably the benefit, it's going to far outweigh any negatives. I'm going to go ahead and vote for this, but this was something I was concerned about. I don't think, again, some of the gentlemen and ladies I talked to weren't really happy with it, but yet I think they felt like it being the hospital, that it was something that if they were going to lose business, they'd rather lose it to the hospital.
Well, and with all due respect, if anybody has tried, now I'm going out on a limb to say this, but oftentimes it's very difficult to get in. Mm-hmm. To get an appointment. Yes. And, you know, so it seems to me that this won't be as big of a hurt to these people as ordinarily, you know, because sometimes it takes you, you know, when you have an illness that comes upon you, and, you know, sometimes by the 7 days, it's gone before you can see your doctor, so or a nurse practitioner. So I think that I think this will be a good solution for everybody eventually. And here again, at the health clinic, if the nurse practitioner feels like it needs to be further followed, that nurse practitioner will then recommend the person to go back to their regular physician.
Also, I think there'd be a significant number of the employees probably don't have a family practitioner, too. Mm-hmm. So this gives them an option to get in and get out quick.
Yeah, all very good points. And these were the things that you guys were mentioning were actually I discussed with these. I've asked these questions, and yeah, one of the things that you mentioned, Councilman Anderson, is that this, in some ways, we may think of this as it may make us better.
Yeah.
One of the physicians I talked to mentioned that, you know, if people are if our city employees, and these are good people. These are the folks that they want in their office
Sure.
to treat. If they're having to go somewhere else, maybe we need to be thinking about what we're doing,
Yeah.
and what we can do better in order to guarantee or continue to see our own
Yeah.
patients.
Yeah.
So all very good points. Again, as I mentioned, I'm gonna vote for it. I just I think through this stuff, and I wanted to find out a little bit more about it. But anyway, sorry. Any councilman have any more questions about item 17? Okay, if not, we're going to go ahead and we're going to have a vote. Please signify by voting yes or no.
4 yes votes, motion carries.
All right, now we're on to item 18. That's considered the health and wellness program that actually Mr. Woods presented. Do I hear a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or discussion for Mr. Woods?
Here again, I can't say enough good things about this, and trying to encourage people to be healthier and for their own good, and then also for the benefit of the city too. And these kind of incentives are just wonderful, and I'm very pleased that the city of Cookeville has gone towards this, and I hope that we find that it really grows and becomes a big part of our population.
It'll be interesting to come back after 6 months and find out how many people have participated.
I think it's good, too, that you got a two-tier. For some of the people who are not very competitive, but just to get them involved, just to
Right.
start, just to get them walking instead of running.
Or getting them up
Just
instead
getting
of
'em up.
getting them up.
Get them out of the chair.
Mr. Rader, you have a question?
No, I was going to say, so many private businesses are now establishing this kind of a program, and this is something that I think the city can really, their employees, give the employees the opportunity to do this is a great benefit if people take advantage of it. I think the department heads need to really encourage their employees to at least give it a
Absolutely,
try and
yeah.
take advantage of it.
Well, we might even make the council be a part of it or offer it to them.
Is that a
Offer.
challenge?
That's a challenge.
Death at dawn, we could offer.
No, I'm not going to be at Death at Dawn.
Any other council members' questions? I do have one other question. I guess bottom line, the reason we even started this discussion is because our costs are going way up. Blue Cross Blue Shield's got lots of actuaries and et cetera. Is there any? Do they have any? Looking at our trending that we've done, and what we're paying now, and what we're instituting, do they have any
Yeah.
forecast and what we're going to do? Are those numbers? They think they'll level off? Think we're going to save? Any ideas?
I have not asked Blue Cross that question yet. Their basic response is if you get people up, active, moving, that eventually down the road it's going to save claims. But they have not got an actuary, and I have not asked that
Well,
specific question.
we're instituting we're doing three big things. We're renegotiating and have a new contract. We have a contract with the institution here in town, our hospital, for a clinic, wellness and preventative care, acute care clinic, and now we have wellness incentives. And I would be curious. I would like to. I would ask that question if Blue Cross and Blue Shield was here.
It's a very difficult thing. One of the things that we ask when we surveyed other communities that have a fitness component to their wellness programs, if they could track the amount of money that they'd saved.
Right.
And
hard to do.
and it's very, very difficult to do, partly because you don't know what the costs would have been if that employee had not been participating and had not gotten healthier. So you don't know what they would have, you don't know how much they would have spent if they hadn't been healthier. So it's really a difficult thing, and I didn't get a good answer from any of the cities that we surveyed.
Okay.
Well, it's the right thing to do, to get them involved and be more physically active and fit. It's just a good and right thing to do.
Okay, other questions, discussion, comments? Okay, hearing none, we're ready to vote. Vote by either yes or no.
4 yes votes, motion carries.
That ends our agenda.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you very much. That was a great presentation. I need to, just procedural matter, I need to go back and on item 8, council members, that resolution is actually numbered on item 8, where it was considered the issuance of the $30 million Build America bonds. That is resolution number 101213. I guess I need to make sure the record reflects that.
Pretty sure that's what you said.
Yeah,
I think I didn't read the resolution number.
I think you do.
I think you did too.
Okay, well, never mind.
We
You
would've
did it
We would
right.
have made sure it was in the minutes.
All right, I knew you would. I just want to make sure. Okay. That basically ends our meeting. Is there any folks out in the audience that would like to speak up? Have anything to say? Comments?
James, hit your button there.
Somebody took it from me.
Oh, they took it off?
No.
The little Santa Claus going across or whatever?
No,
Oh, come on.
there. Take it again. Who's got
Well, I liked the wreath at, I liked the wreath in Cookeville. Well, before we adjourn, I definitely want to encourage everybody to stay here in Cookeville, Tennessee, to spend their money and go to the stores and buy what you can here in Cookeville, because you're supporting your city. And hope that everybody has a safe Christmas and a happy Christmas and all those wonderful things.
Councilman, anything else? Okay. Meeting's adjourned.